naturally. You follow what you feel inside. It's intuitive, you don't have to try. It comes naturally.
From Green 960 in San Francisco, I'm Beth Greer, and this is your Supernatural Life. This show is part of the Green Morning, heard every Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific. My show is about taking natural living up a notch to supernatural living, and each week I interview top experts who show you ways to live a supernatural life. Well, my show today is about how to maximize the nutrition from the food you eat. Did you know that how you use water and heat in cooking and your food's exposure to light and air can dramatically affect how healthy your food can be? And that doing some pretty simple things in your kitchen can help you retain vitamins and boost antioxidant levels in your food. My guest today is here in the studio with me. She's Laurie Gauginb, a San Francisco-based whole food chef who has cooked and baked professionally for the past 15 years. Laurie was most influenced by her position as culinary director of a health-focused cooking school near Boston, Massachusetts, where she developed plant-based menus and taught cooking classes under the direction of a physician. She learned firsthand the healing effects of whole foods, and she's since worked with many healthcare providers, developing recipes, teaching classes, and giving practical cooking advice for patients who are on special diets. Laurie writes articles and develops healthy recipes for national publications like Vegetarian Times, Delicious Living, and Relish. She's a personal chef to private clients and is also a kitchen coach where she helps people integrate healthy eating habits into their busy lives. Well, welcome to your Supernatural Life, Laurie.
Thank you, Beth. Glad to be here.
Great. It's nice to have you. So most people are unaware that the vitamins actually deteriorate with exposure to water, heat, light, and air. So let's start with water. How does exposure to water affect the vitamin levels in food?
Well, first of all, I want to define what water-soluble vitamins are. Those are the ones that are most susceptible to deterioration with exposure to water. Now, the water-soluble vitamins include vitamin C, which most people are very familiar with, and it also includes the B complex. So this includes fruits and vegetables such as asparagus, peas, watercress, celery, Brussels sprouts, watermelon. There's a whole array of foods that contain these water-soluble vitamins. And like the name suggests, these vitamins literally dissolve in water. So because of that, we have to be really careful about how we wash our food, first of all, because you can literally wash these water-soluble vitamins right out of your produce.
Well, that's fascinating. So what is the best way to wash then?
Well, there's several different ways. There's the first way is to wipe your vegetables. Now this process is useful for smooth-fleshed fruits and vegetables such as apples, mushrooms, tomatoes, that sort of thing. So what you're doing is you're taking a damp cloth and you're wiping the outside of the vegetable. Now, that is limiting the exposure to water because there's a lot less water that comes into contact with these fruits or vegetables as opposed to dunking them in a bowl full of water.
Right. Now, I understand, for example, mushrooms, I was told to either wipe them or brush them because they're so porous, but something like an apple doesn't seem to be that porous unless I'm mistaken. So are you saying that holding an apple under running water is going to take the vitamin C away from it more readily than just, say, wiping it?
It will take some out of there, yeah. But you're exactly right. The more porous fruits and vegetables are definitely more vulnerable to having their vitamin levels deteriorated through water. And you can lose actually up to 40% of these water-soluble vitamins simply by washing them. But that's a very good point you brought up. The less porous the surface of the fruit or vegetable, the less you're going to have, the less vitamin loss you're going to have.
Now, I'm always, promoting eating organic fruits and vegetables, but let's say you have a non-organic apple. Is it best to wipe it, wash it, peel it? I mean, what do you think about that? Or just not eat it at all?
Well, let's see. Well, non-organic vegetable, that's number one on the dirty dozen, which your
right.
callers are your listeners are probably familiar with. So I would definitely peel that apple. Definitely. Now, washing, the same thing would hold true for organic and non-organic, because just because something's organic doesn't mean it's clean enough to eat. It depends on how it's been handled, whether or not it's been, dropped on the floor before it gets put into the produce bin. These things happen.
Right.
And so simply because it's organic, I have people ask me all the time, they're saying, well, so you're saying just don't wash my vegetables? I'm saying, no, absolutely not. You have to wash your vegetables, even if they're organic. So, getting back to the original point, if you're going to be eating an apple, I would definitely, even if it's not organic, a non-organic apple, I would definitely recommend peeling that.
Even though that my understanding is most of the vitamins are right under the skin, you should still peel it.
Because the skin is also where a lot of the pesticides concentrate,
right.
Unfortunately. So it's a tough call. And it's not a general rule that goes for every fruit or vegetable. You really have to pick and choose which ones you're going to, how are you going to handle each one. But personally, I would suggest definitely peeling that apple.
Okay, so like strawberries, which are so luscious, and right now they're just perfect to eat, organic only, because those you can't wash the pesticides off, and you can't peel a strawberry, but would you recommend wiping them as opposed to rinsing them?
I do that, and for twofold reason, actually. From a health standpoint, because you definitely want to get rid of any dirt or residue that's on the strawberry, but also from a culinary standpoint, strawberries are very porous, so they are going to absorb some water, and you want to get the most intense strawberry flavor. You don't want that to be watered down. So
interesting.
It's a little extra work, but I find that it's worth it.
Right. Well, I guess, but so something like raspberries or blueberries are almost impossible to wipe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I have a few other techniques too.
Okay.
No, you bring up a really good point, because not everything is a smooth flesh vegetable. And what about if you buy mesclun mix or something that has lots of surface area and it's just not practical to wipe? Mm-hmm. Well, there are other techniques I use for these, and you're absolutely right. Strawberries, raspberries, blueberries, you can't wipe them. So what I suggest, you can still put them in water, but just limit the soaking time. Don't let them sit there. This is what I suggest. Fill your bowl full of water first, and then put your berries in there and immediately take them out. Because I've watched several home cooks and friends, relatives, and whatnot. They do this with their salad spinners and with just filling bowls full of water to wash any kind of produce. They put the fruit or vegetable in the bowl, and then they add the water.
Right.
So that's increasing the amount of time that it's been sitting in the water.
Soaking. That's right, because that's how we do it at home with our mesclun mix, whatever. Yeah. So so fill up the thing first with water, then add the lettuce or whatever.
Yes.
Or the berries. Okay. What do you think about just, say, running your tap faucet over, let's say, in a colander, blueberries or raspberries? Do you prefer soaking them?
I do, because if you have your berries in a colander, you're going to have to shake them and agitate them quite a bit to get every surface exposed to that water. And if you really want to clean them well, you really should put them in water. Just take them out very quickly, because otherwise, if you just have the spigot running, I don't think you get a really good clean on those.
I see. Interesting. Okay. And then what do you think of those vegetable washes?
The vegetable washes, I personally don't use them. I haven't read extensively about them, but from what I've read, there's little scientific proof that they really clean any better than water. I mean, if you're that's where I should stop on that one, because I'm not highly learned about that particular topic. But from what I've read, it doesn't seem to make a huge difference.
And it's less expensive to just use your own water.
Yeah,
well.
Exactly. Yeah. And I have another tip, if I may. Mm-hmm. This one is a really good tip. So what we want to do is limit the surface area of the fruit or vegetable that is exposed to water. So say you have a head of broccoli. That's something that's pretty large, and you're not going to eat it in its full state. You're going to cut it into florets. What I suggest, because you want to limit the surface area exposed to the water, is cut it into very large pieces and then dunk it in the water, take it out immediately. And then after it's washed, then cut it into the smaller pieces. So that's a very good trick, as opposed to, say you're making a stir fry. So you use that technique as opposed to cutting them into bite-sized pieces before you wash them.
Right. Well, so what about, let's say, a head of cauliflower? Do you recommend cutting it into chunks and washing it, or can you just wash the surface of it before you cut it?
Well, I examine everything before I wash it. Organic cauliflower, for example, there's a lot of little crevices where bugs can hide. And sometimes the cauliflower is really immaculate. I don't see any bugs. I don't see any dirt. In that case, I would just use my best judgment. I would wipe the outside of it in the stem and then cut into it. And if I see that there's any residue on the inside, then I would probably just quarter it and then put it into water very briefly.
I had a very bad experience with broccoli once when I didn't wash it properly, and there were little bugs, and they came out in the steam, the water. Ugh.
I know. Once that happens once, you
Right.
don't do it again.
So continuing on the water theme, what's the best way to cook with water to limit the vitamin loss? Is steaming better than say boiling quickly, or what's your take on that?
Sure. Well, hands down, steaming is better than boiling. Just to give you an example of this, steamed broccoli retains 83 to 100% of its vitamin C.
Wow.
Boiled broccoli retains only 45 to 64% of its vitamin C. So that's quite a vitamin loss you get from boiling.
Really? Yeah.
So it's very significant. And once again, we're talking about water-soluble vitamins, which are very, very vulnerable to water and heat, by the way.
Well, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, let's continue our conversation, and we're going to bring heat into this. And I also want to know about stir frying as opposed to steaming. So we'll be right back.